Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna be diving in to Quirky Loves Rosie. I know. It's a new girl. Quirky has kind of danced around girl world for a year or so, probably longer than that. And although I know bits and pieces of her, like I know that she's done some things for money involving food. And I know that she and Amberlynn have kind of had a back and forth before. So I know those bits and pieces from wherever she's kind of trickled into Girl World and it's been covered by reaction channels. However, I don't know about Rosie. And that is what we're going to get into today. Now, this video was put out by Quirky Moments. And I'm going to leave a link for their channel down in the description box below. Be sure to check them out. As far as like deep dives, this is one of the only channels that I've been able to find that actually put out her lore. You know, I know some reaction channels have been covering her currently, but I want to know the history before I start covering her on a consistent basis. Like I need to know the backstory. And so I thought, why not react to her lore and her backstory with you guys?
Rosalind Jean, Rosie Jean, Brown Eyed Rose, Quirky Rose, Ruby Sunshine 91. She's gone by many names in her 15 years on the internet. Who is QuirkyLoveRosee, and why are we talking about her right now, this point in time in Girl World? Let's discover that together. QuirkyLoveRose was born Rosalind Jean on November 24th, 1991 in Battle Creek, Michigan. Rosie was raised in a conservative Mormon family by her mother Tammy and father Eric, has an older sister who won't be named, and she has one younger brother named Levi. The family moved several times during Rosie's childhood, including a brief stint in California before they settled in Canton, Georgia for the majority of Rosie's childhood. In early childhood, Rosie's mother stated that Rosie was hyperverbal, outgoing, and definitely very stubborn. By Rosie's accounts, she was a strong-willed but obedient child. She believed in the teachings of the Mormon Church. Her family were not as devout as some fundamentalist Mormons, but still attended services regularly, youth group on Wednesday nights, and other church events.
I guess I'll start with childhood. I was born into a Mormon family. I was raised Mormon. I left the church when I was 18. We can get to that in a minute. Around that, I was very isolated as a child. I didn't do much outside of church and school. I didn't go pretty much anywhere. I mean, at one point, my parents had 7 jobs between them. And yeah, 7. Like, it was like, that was later on in my childhood, thankfully. And so pretty much my entire childhood was literally and metaphorically shoveling everything that I could. And, I was a Mormon. I wasn't out going doing drugs, so I was eating. And by the time I was 9, I had really extreme depression, but that was back when kids couldn't be depressed.
Rosie felt emotionally neglected by her parents. Levi was diagnosed with autism, and her parents' focus shifted to Levi as he had additional needs. His diagnosis was not what triggered Rosie's depression. Unfortunately, something else happened to Rosie that she later cites as the catalyst for nearly all of her issues in life.
Essentially, I was when I was 6 years old. And that's kind of the foundation of what ended up turning into my CPTSD. So he lived with us for 6 months, and ultimately he ended up getting kicked out when my mom walked in on him, I guess.
The abuse had stopped, but the trauma remained. Around age 7, Rosie turned to food for comfort. She continued to gain weight throughout her childhood and was the victim of bullying due to her size. She didn't have close friends, but everyone at school knew who she was. To her peers, she was simply the fat girl. In reality,
It seems that every morbidly obese person always has some sort of trauma or something, one big thing that has basically, like she said, been the catalyst of the eating issues. And even on My 600-Pound Life, they always go back to their childhood. Something happened in their childhood that started this downward spiral with their relationship to food. It seems to be like literally almost everyone. So I'm kind of not shocked to hear that something like that happened to her, because it seems to be the norm for people of her size.
she was using food to cope with the unaddressed trauma of her childhood abuse. Because she grew up in a traditional Mormon household where conversations around sexuality were taboo, she chose not to tell her parents what happened.
Being Mormon and feeling like that because of what my cousin had done to me, that I was somehow less pure, that I was no longer innocent, that I was of the devil, that there was evil in me, like these narratives that I formed in my head because I was too scared to talk about what had happened.
By age 13, Rosie spent hours alone in her bedroom, struggling to process the memories and believing she was somehow to blame. By the late 2000s, pressures forced her parents to work multiple jobs to support the family. She was often left unsupervised with her siblings, and she had unrestricted access to the kitchen, where she routinely on chips and cereal. Her weight rose steadily throughout high school, reaching over 200 kilograms by her final year. Ongoing bullying at school compounded her low self-esteem. Classmates targeted her with mean drawings in the hallways, and on one occasion, a student pulled her pants down in public while others laughed.
Oh shit, that's wild.
Her early teenage years, Rosie came to realize that she was bisexual. She struggled with her hidden sexuality, and at one point, her dad caught her looking at inappropriate material online.
And he handed me a business card with no conversation, and I hadn't said anything. I hadn't come out in any way. I didn't end up coming out until I was 27, by the way. He hands it to me, and it was a conversion therapy card.
Rosie's weight, her hidden and her secretly questioning the teachings of the Mormon Church on gay marriage all contributed to her feelings of isolation. Craving connection, Rosie turned to the internet, specifically Yahoo Messenger.
One time I logged in and I said my ASL, because again, like 2010. I got like 80 DMs in the span of, I'm not kidding, like 2 seconds, and it crashed my computer. I was like, what is this?
BBW stands for Big, Beautiful Woman. Rosie suddenly found a community that celebrated her body type. She began receiving a great deal of attention for the first time, which provided a sense of validation she had never really had before. Not only did they accept her body type, they celebrated it. And for Rosie, that attention was addictive.
I ended up talking to a guy who was way too old to be talking to me. He was 10 years older than me, and he was visiting in town. I lied to my parents. I came up with an alibi with one of my friends that my mom hated, because she's the kind of friend who would make an alibi for me. And I did something really reckless and dangerous, and I met this person up somewhere, and we met up. Events transpired. I went to church the following week. I probably arrived late. I sat in the back, so not in like the main. I'm sitting there, I'm just getting antsier, and I'm just keep having this really loud, big thought in my head, and it's just, I don't belong.
Rosie got up, walked out, and officially moved away from organized religion. Eventually, Rosie's family also moved away from Mormonism, although her mother still holds to some of their beliefs if her most recent live streams are to be believed. Her online interactions continued. Rosie began posting photos in forums dedicated to BBW, aka Big Beautiful Women. However, during this time, her weight continued to climb.
Hello, my name is Rosie. I'm 20 years old, I'm 5'6", and I weigh about 440. I live in Canton, Georgia, and I just recently moved out 2 months ago, and this is kind of my living space. We had, before the other people who lived in here moved out, we had a different table set, and the chairs were much more pretty, but these are more antique. And so I'm terrified to sit in them. I tried once, but see this kind of lightweight.
It always shocks me when people have to have in their head and be cautious of where they sit, because it's such a big person thing. And I remember being in high school and not having the fear that a chair would break underneath me, but I would have this anxiety over sitting in a desk. Our high school had the desk that had the seat attached, so you couldn't scoot the chair back or forward. It was a set position, and I would have this fear that I would be too big for the desk and I wouldn't be able to fit. That was so long ago, and it's such a crazy way to live, to have to sit there and think about, is this chair gonna hold me up, or how's the furniture? Because I know bigger people have certain things about furniture, you can't sit in a chair with arms because you're too big to sit in the chair. So it's just I don't know, it's always a reminder when I hear people talk about the sitting situations.
Old rickety chair. I'm even scared to even try doing the video because I don't want to break it. It's not mine.
In 2012, Rosie auditioned for the TV show The Biggest Loser. Ultimately, she was not selected for the TV show. She recorded this video as her audition tape, and it showcases the realities of living in a 440-pound body. The fear of breaking furniture, fear of a heart attack, the fear that you might fall and not be able to get up, the fear of being perceived.
That's how I'm perceived. I'm perceived as incredibly lazy, fat, stupid. How I'm perceived. I want to change that. I'm not lazy, and I'm not stupid. I'm anything but stupid. I was diagnosed bipolar at the age of 16, and I started feeling symptomatic at 15. Dealing with being bipolar has been a very difficult thing to deal with. You're so all over the board. Much more likely to have personality, which I have one, obviously. It would make me want to eat more. You're more likely to do drugs or become of some sort. I'm a food.
Roz blames a lot of her issues on her childhood. This is just a reminder that we can have sympathy for the child that went through that trauma while still holding the adult accountable for their bad actions. Rosie regularly deletes anything that doesn't serve her anymore from her social media and her YouTube. This means that holding her accountable...
It sounds a lot like Foodie. Amberlynn doesn't really delete that much anymore because I think over the years she's learned to kind of filter herself. But Foodie, given that 90% of her content is live streams, she kind of has to resort to dirty deleting. And we all know that she's made such a habit of this that there are channels dedicated to archiving Foodie and Amberlynn for those reasons, because they have the tendency to delete and try and hide things that they say in the heat of the moment. But we all know the internet is forever.
The crap she says and does is a little bit harder unless you are literally archiving all of her posts. And thankfully, most of the more problematic things have been archived, but not everything. So while I do prefer to only show you things that I have, hard evidence to back up, at some point I might share a couple of things that the community has kept alive by word of mouth alone. However, I have more than enough material with what I've found alone. I mean, there's more than enough. In 2013, Rosie would join a live site where she would perform for an audience for money. She found this website via Reddit. Reddit is also where she met her boyfriend Chris.
Met him online too.
I met them on Reddit.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, my ex, ironically, was my biggest tipper, but I didn't know that until a while.
Do you post pictures?
It's a site basically. And I fell so madly in love with him, and the majority of our relationship was like monogamous and like pretty standard. And then near the end, things really changed because my stalker.
You heard that right. At the same time that Rosie had met her boyfriend Chris on Reddit, she also met a man who would soon become her stalker. One day during a live webcam, he doxed her live. Terrified, she shut off the camera, but he would later blackmail her into performing live for him. She would characterize this later as assault, but through the internet. Rosie did not tell Chris anything about the stalker.
My stalker's a monster.
I know this is like a tangent, but a lot of people consider doing work when they are desperate for money because it is such a lucrative business. But I think a lot of people don't consider things like this happening. And for those reasons, that's one reason why I have never gone down that path as a form of making money, because you have those incels that become obsessed with you, and they can like download your photos and figure out the location based on the GPS of your photo. Like, people are crazy. And I'm not like victim blaming. I'm just saying, like, for my own personal decisions in life, that was a big concern for me, is like the safety and dealing with creepy people. So yeah, although tempting because of the money that's made, it's just never been worth it for me.
A self-proclaimed narcissistic sociopath.
Did the Skype thing, did that only happen once, or was that a reoccurring thing?
That only happened once. And I think it's because he got so entrenched in my life he didn't need. So what happened was we connected as friends. I was like, you know, would I date someone like him? I realized very quickly I wasn't that interested. So I kind of friend-zoned him. He played it cool, but basically what ended up happening was we would like video chat and stuff. And there's a program called TeamViewer that like my dad uses a lot to like do IT work and like help fix computers and stuff. And so I gave him like temporary access with TeamViewer to show me stuff on his computer. So it basically is like a viewing window. This was when like I was like, I'd just been getting to know him for a little bit. He showed me that like his use of the dark web.
Rosie's stalker went on to threaten her with other things that he could do to her through the internet or even in person. If you'd like to watch the full interview with Rosie where she goes into more detail about her stalker, you can do so at the We're All Insane podcast on YouTube.
I realized how deep in shit I was. It took a couple, like a year, maybe two, to realize truly just how deep I was. I also experienced like Stockholm with this guy. I remember like telling him things like I love you and things like that. He actually, not only do I think he brainwashed me into believing I'm polyamorous. Fun fact, I'm not. I thought I was for years.
Rosie further describes what
and at its essence, at its most innocence, it's about like a sexual regarding someone, generally for the purpose of them being fat or getting fat or gaining weight. There's a big umbrella when it comes to, and the thing about this guy is I think he was into what's called, and that's where I have a lot of problems. And is what it sounds like.
Up until this point, Rosie had gone by the name Phoenix Rose on Instagram. In November 2015, she began a new account called QuirkyLoveRosee. Everyone says QuirkyLoveRosee. She put 2 E's at the end. However, she only did this because QuirkyLoveRose was taken on Instagram at the time, and it probably still is. Chris and Rosie maintained a long-distance relationship. Their relationship started in September of 2013 when they met officially in person. However, they had been talking for about 4 months prior. Anytime they did have a visit, it was well documented on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Rosie began to build a larger social media platform. People followed her for her makeup looks as pictured here, and this was prior to like the big boom of beauty YouTube. You know, people followed her, they enjoyed her makeup look. In addition to this, she was also still doing the live, and she was also privately selling photos via Google Drive to interested parties. Her makeup skills are definitely up for debate. The first look I showed was definitely my favorite. This one is not my favorite, and I will leave it at that. Rosie and Chris continued to date, and noticeably, her weight was climbing. Rumors swirled that Chris was part of the community. During one of their visits, they went out for hibachi and shared this honestly really cute photo of them. I think this is a lovely photo of both of them. This is also the first appearance of the famous tie-dye dress. As her social media following increased, so did the wackadoos that followed her. Rosie had all of her profiles public at this time. Chris's information was publicly accessible, and people began to harass him. Chris and Rosie's relationship became strained as a result. Her activities online were very stressful for him, and he had a child. Now, remember the child, because that will be important later in the story. Additionally, Rosie was struggling with jealousy as women began adding Chris on Instagram, either because they were actually interested in him or because, you know, they were wanting to troll Rosie. She states in one
if we're talking about makeup looks, that is a choice.
Infamous post, outtake from last night. Also, to all these girls adding my boyfriend on Instagram now. When I have never talked to you a day in my life, you are rude. Only one person so far that has added him I would even consider an internet friend. If we do not have an internet friendship, why are you adding him? Shady shit right there. Hashtag sorry not sorry. He probably isn't accepting any at all. Hashtag his decision. Prior to this, QuirkyLoveRosee was posting under Phoenix Rose. She deleted that account, and then on November 20th, 23rd, she posts under QuirkyLoveRosee. So I'm back on public, and that does mean that I'm no longer in my relationship. I broke up with him in the past couple of days, and I made this account as a distraction through how much this sucked. As I get back into the groove of Instagram, I hope to get back into my BOPO posts and start doing real, actual work towards raising awareness with mental health stigmas. Another day, I'll go more into that. If you used to follow my old page and you want to shout me out so people who used to follow me can find me, I would greatly appreciate that. No pressure. It's going to take a while to get back into the swing of things, and just when they thought they tore me down, I'm back tenfold. Chris and Rosie had seemingly broken up. However, it wasn't long before they were back together. Rosie's family moved to Georgia. I believe she moved with them. She posted on Instagram, "If you haven't been following me on Snapchat or Facebook, you may not know that a month ago tomorrow I took this photo the night I arrived to Omaha and moved in. This past month has been crazy, stressful, and blessed, amazing and beautiful. I got another job that I've been training for the past week and a half. My love for cooking has been re-inspired, which I share mainly on Le Snap. Living with my boyfriend has been amazing, truly amazing. And on top of that, we made a very adult purchase of a brand new mattress. I love him with all of my heart, and I can't wait to see where this journey continues to go. 2.5 years we have had a hashtag long distance relationship. We made it through all of the hell, the ups and downs that distance brings. We made it through the hate, and our love, above all else, conquered it all. Everyone that believed in us and me, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. All these lonely nights apart waiting for this time was worth it, every second. To all my hashtag LDR folks, I believe in you and your relationship. It can work. It can come true. It just takes love, patience, kindness, strength, and communication. If they're the one, it's worth it." Rosie's photo was posted on r/fatpeoplehate, a since deleted subreddit where people would hate on fat people, essentially. There was a big thing with Reddit where Reddit had to take down the subreddit, and yeah, this was a big deal for Rosie. She talks about it a lot. While living in Omaha, Rosie had a work-from-home job. She had also started a YouTube channel and vlogged regularly. You'll notice that there are no vlogs on her account that date back to 2017, 16, 15. Rosie deleted everything off her YouTube channel, and actually, she's done that several times over the years. As of May 2026, she only has content dating back 2 years ago to 2024, despite having been on YouTube for years at this point. Rosie was still doing her side business of selling content
That's a pretty makeup look. I like that one.
online. Now, at the time, Rosie did post pretty publicly about her selling content. It's not a secret. However, she has scrubbed every trace she can from the internet. Rosie was an avid watcher of beauty YouTube. She was an avid watcher of Jeffree Star, James Charles, Kat Von D, all of the big names back. She posted her makeup looks regularly on Instagram. Behind the scenes, Rosie's weight had continued to climb. She hit her maximum weight of 550 pounds. When she took this photo, she was at 538 pounds. Her weight gain only fueled the rumors that Chris was a
See, in that photo, to me, she didn't even look 500 pounds. She looked a lot smaller.
Just to be fair, I have added comparison photos. This is Rosie in 2013. The next photo is Rosie at her highest weight in 2017. According to Rosie's The Biggest Loser audition video, she weighed around 440 pounds in 2012. The photo of Rosie in the blue dress was taken in 2013, and then the photo of her in the tie-dye dress was taken in 2017 at her highest weight of 550 pounds. Over the course of their relationship from 2013 2017, she gained 110 pounds minimum. I don't personally believe that Chris is a feeder. However, Rosie was involved with the feeder for the entirety of their relationship. The man she calls her stalker.
I was. It took a couple, like a year, maybe 2 to realize truly just how deep I was. I also experienced like Stockholm with this guy. I remember like telling him things like, "I love you," and things like that. He actually, not only do I think I think he brainwashed me into believing I'm polyamorous. Fun fact, I'm not. I thought I was for years.
She talks about the stalker sending her explicit material and slowly beginning to GROOM her into. At this point, Chris still knew nothing about the stalker. To be clear, she had told other people about the stalker. She told multiple people, but she hadn't told her boyfriend. She goes on in this next clip to characterize what happened between them as cheating. It does beg the question, did her narrative change again? What bothers me here is that she continues to characterize it as cheating. Being raped is not cheating. Just like if a small child experiences CSA, they haven't lost their virginity, they were losing implies consent. Having sex implies consent.
I have family in Indiana, and he knew that, and I was planning a trip to go see my family, and he basically made it clear that I didn't really have a choice about seeing him, and I just needed to make it happen because I know what he was capable of, and he made it clear. So I had to lie to my boyfriend, I had to lie to my family. It was the same weekend I actually met the founder of Pizza Sisters for Life randomly, and I remember talking to her about it and trying to be excited about what I was going to go do, even though I didn't want to go. I didn't want to cheat on my boyfriend. I really didn't. And like at the time, I didn't understand the nuance of what the coercion was. Also at the time, this was around the time where Google Glasses were supposed to be the new big thing. So I think this was in 2014. I believe that when we met up, he recorded me on his Google Glasses without my consent. I know he stealthed me, and he coerced me into an act of without me knowing what it was. Kind of back up. When I did arrive at the hotel, I remember I got to the door and I walked in and the room was empty, and I walk in and I stop at the bathroom and I realize the lights off, and I look in and the energy, the aura of that room was so, and I look over and I see him literally just like lurking in the corner of the bathroom with the lights off. So I went into like full fawn mode. I remember I was like, I'm just gonna people please my way through this. I don't know if I thought about it in that terms, but that's just kind of where my brain went. So I was just like, I don't know, I felt like I was just putting on a performance. And at one point he left to go get lunch, and when he came back, I grabbed my food to start to eat, and that's when he jumped to me and I said, what are you doing? Because I'm just trying to eat my food. He goes, do you know what is? And I said no. And that's when he continued to do what he was doing and explain what it was, to create that psychological tie. I didn't know what to do. And so the act finished. And
If you don't know, stealthing is the act of removing a condom during the sexual act, non-consensually. It is considered as R-word in most states in the United States of America. It is horrible that he did anything non-consensually to her. Rosie has put the story on the internet, and her accounts are confusing. I think there's a lot that she hasn't shared, but because she did make it confusing, I think it's okay that we have some questions, and hopefully she'll answer them one day. By 2019, the issues in Chris and Rosie's relationship had come to a head. Rosie posted on Instagram. I made an Insta story talking about it, but I just wanted to share an update. Chris and I came to a mutual decision and decided to break up a couple of days ago. I will be moving back to Georgia in the coming months once I figure things out. If you care about how I'm feeling about it, feel free to watch my Insta story. I'm hanging in there. I posted that on February 17th, 2019. By April 10th, 2019, she had moved back to Georgia, stating, first time in a very, very long time, I've done my makeup. I'm all moved into Georgia now, getting settled in and figuring my shit out. Single life has been an adjustment for sure, and I could not have done this without the amazing support of my friends and family. The move back to Georgia was not easy on Rosie. She posted on Instagram in June of 2019, trying to smile through the fear and the uncertainty as my life is hard. Oddly enough, not as hard as I thought it would be. Trying to find a job here in Georgia has been a lot more difficult than I anticipated. I've fallen into the hardest times of my life. I considered setting up a GoFundMe because frankly, I need to. I don't know if it's a mixture of pride and self-inflicted anger or what, but I just don't want to. I want to figure this out in my own path. By July 7th, I don't have a place to go at this point. I have a lot of faith that I have enough resources and friends in the Georgia area that I'll be okay. I'm thankful I have reliable transportation, but I'm terrified. I can barely afford to feed myself, and I'm looking into means to make side hustle money right now. Could use all of the love, tips, advice, and positive vibes I can get. Please do not feel obliged to, but I have my PayPal link in my Instagram bio if you want to help me keep my car and have gas to get to interviews, set up for Postmates, etc., and maybe be able to buy myself some groceries. I also have a Cash App I can provide upon request. I've had a couple friends from Facebook help me out, so I thought I'd explain my situation on Instagram. I'm sorry to share this with you all. I feel like a failure. My breakup and the timing of everything really put me in a bind, and I'm struggling. I have so many uncertainties, but oddly enough, I'm learning just how unimportant money is to your overall happiness. Obviously, I need money or I wouldn't be writing this post for my basic needs, but emotionally and spiritually, I'm happier now than I have been for a long time. I know in my spirit of two things. One, I'm exactly where I need to be, and two, everything happens for a reason. I'm doing everything in my power, following my intuition, and doing what I can to make some lemonade out of these damn lemons. Thank you all for your time reading this. I love you. Short on cash, Rosie began filming specialized content, specifically tourism content. She also made some new friends. She also made a big announcement. She came out as bisexual.
I mean, this goes back to what I was saying. When people go into that field, it's oftentimes because they are desperate to make income. And it seems to be kind of the same for her, even though she had been doing those types of things beforehand. But to actually lean into it and do it for money, it seemed like she had no other option.
On Facebook and Instagram. She was 27 at the time, and she had kept her sexuality a secret for years. Rosie would be invited to BBW proms, which were fancy events for big, beautiful women and their admirers. Rosie began fully exploring her sexuality.
I was just very social in 2019. I was like heavy in like the BBW scene in Atlanta at the time.
The BBW scene in Atlanta had a lot going on for it. Rosie be going to a lot of parties, as documented on her Instagram. She went to the Stars Bash in Atlanta at one point, but it wouldn't be long before her friends pulled her into another world, a secret world.
So some of the parties were like regular parties, but some of them were parties.
I was essentially medically kidnapped.
Well, that was a lot. I feel like I didn't have much to say throughout this video because, what is there to say? Like, this is her story and, it's her life and it's things that happened to her, not necessarily things that she did on her own. So I feel like, I really can't judge that much because it seemed like she was just constantly put in a bad place, having limited options, limited resources, and little to no money, that she was kind of forced into doing things that she may have not done otherwise. Yeah, so I don't have a lot of commentary on this. I think her, obviously what happened to her as a kid is very sad and heartbreaking to happen to anyone. And it's obvious that it's affected her throughout her entire life into adulthood. I don't know if she has actually gotten therapy for the things that have happened to her. And I don't really know her stance on therapy, but if she hasn't explored that option, it would be absolutely worth exploring. I think people that have trauma as a child, even if they don't get therapy as a child and while they're going through it, I think as an adult, it can be very helpful, and it can bring people out of this ball and chain that they live in. It's obvious that what's happened to her as a child has affected her into adulthood. And, if she wants to continue living a very long and healthy life, she's going to have to address those deeper issues in order for her to get healthy. With people like that, it often isn't as easy as going on a diet because of that underlying trauma and that underlying issues that have basically caused the issues at hand. She's going to have to get professional help for that. And like I said, I don't know if she's openly spoken about getting help or not, or what her views are on therapy, but that would be my recommendation. There is a second part of her whole story, but the thing is that video is an hour and a half. And because I didn't have a lot to say in this video, I may not react to that. It'll have to be up to you guys. If you want me to react to it, I will. I'll probably break it down into 2 videos because that video is so long. So let me know what you thought about this video down in the comments. Let me know if you're interested in Quirky, or if you're not, if you think she's boring, let me know, because I definitely want to cover Amberlynn, Foodie, obviously, and possibly Quirky. I just don't know if Quirky has enough drama or scandals for me to cover on a consistent basis. But whenever she does something interesting, I would be willing to cover it. But I wanted to, give a little bit of a backstory to her. If you are new to Quirky like I am, leave your thoughts and comments down in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about this. Let me know how you feel about Rosie. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. I will be leaving a link to Quirky Moments channel in the description, and I will leave a link to both videos that I'm talking about in the description as well, so you can go watch them for yourself and give them a like, view, and comment, and subscribe to their channel as well, because it's obvious that they put a lot of time and effort into these videos. So that's it for me, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.